Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning and having a great week out there so far as we're almost to the end of it, almost to that weekend. I got you an update this morning on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday, and I certainly appreciate y'all folks taking the time out your day to tune in to try to figure that out. Today will be pretty active. We got severe weather that will get started here in the coming hours, as early as here in the next several hours, could really get cranked up, and then could last throughout the afternoon, evening hours as it kind of moves eastward, if you will. So we'll break it down for you folks. We'll talk about the system that is entering the Pacific Northwest over the next couple hours, and really will begin to take over Washington, Oregon, and then the Rockies just in general, where a lot of snow could really pile up in these higher elevations, and just round after round of some heavy precipitation will move into the western U.S. just in general. We'll speak on a little stripe of winter weather that could affect areas of the middle of the country all the way up into the Midwest, and we'll just break it all down for you folks, just like we do every single morning. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank y'all for the prayers and bearing with me as I had to muscle through that video yesterday morning and yesterday evening. I got very detailed in last night's video talking about what I'm seeing going forward. Not a whole lot's changed in my thinking. So if you're interested in really knowing what's going on going forward as we get a little bit deeper into the month of December, technically today's the last day of November, but as we get deep into next month, check out last night's video. I got very detailed on my latest thinkings, but of course my thinkings are going to change as we get a little bit deeper into the month. So if you guys got anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. I am feeling better this morning, but just still a little low on energy. So if you notice that, well, it's because it is true. I'm just a tad bit low on energy, but we're going to muscle our way through this. So let's take a look at water vapor loop and kind of describe what's going on out here right now. Well, you got a lot of moisture that's about to enter the Pacific Northwest. You can see the wider colors, which indicates more moisture in the atmosphere. This is kind of round number one. Then another round will move in the next 24 hours. That'll probably be a heavier round, but this will begin to take over most of the Pacific Northwest with lower elevation rain, higher elevation snow will where feet of snow will begin to add up in the Cascades and eventually into the Rockies. And then there's an upper trough digging down into here. This is pulling a lot of moisture into this region right here. And this is an ingredient for severe weather, as an upper trough with a surface low at the base of it begins to really get cranked up here. And you pretty much get a favorable wind field that supports lift for thunderstorm development. And in this case, you will have the ingredients for severe weather. We dove really deep into the ingredients that's driving the severe weather threat today. If you really want to know kind of the nerdy information, if you will, about what's driving this. We're not going to do that in this video. We're going to give you just a straightforward information here about where we think the worst weather is going to be. But a lot of moisture surging into this region as a low pressure will cut across the middle of the country. And then on the northern side of this, you could have a stripe of winter weather across this area of the country. I would say right into here, okay? And then eventually also into Michigan as we get deeper into tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon until we get into our Friday. And then we'll watch another system that will bring a lot of moisture for the southeast as we get throughout this coming weekend. So we talked about that too in last night's video, but won't dive much into that in this video. But we'll get all this off your screen here, and then we'll keep chugging along. We'll take a look at what's going on based off of radar. There's the moisture beginning to enter the Pacific Northwest. There's the moisture already ongoing this morning in areas of eastern Texas, southwest Arkansas, extreme southeast Oklahoma, and there's already a lot of heavy rain falling in southern sections of Louisiana. A little bit of light snow activity in areas of eastern Maine. Probably not really heavy at all up here. But the rest of the country pretty quiet. Now, there is the heavy snow this morning falling in the higher elevations of New Mexico with this upper low moving its way through. And sometimes these can bring its own cold air. It's not sometimes, more likely than not, it does bring its own cold air. So in this case, you're not having any issues at all. It's snowing pretty good here in New Mexico this morning. Lower elevations is probably just a cold rain, but You guys let me know if you're tuning in for New Mexico, what you're seeing here in the heart of the state. I would love to know from you folks. That would be awesome. Snow falling in areas of Canada, but not a whole lot. But the southeast quiet, the northeast pretty quiet, middle of the country pretty quiet, but that will certainly change over the next 24 hours. So let's take a look at what's going on based off the Storm Prediction Center. I'll probably take multiple sips of water in this video just to kind of moisten up my throat. It's pretty dry and just hoarse from kind of being sick. But the Storm Prediction Center, we do have a little baby enhanced risk. It's not very big at all, but it is over a highly populated area. The city of Houston is now under an enhanced risk, very small, and we'll zoom into this here in a second when we get to the south central frame. Marginal risk does extend all the way up into southern Oklahoma, and we have a slight risk for pretty much southeast Texas into southwest Louisiana. So we do still have that level 3 out of 5 risk. We will have another update around 8:45, 9 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see if this downgrades and maybe they get rid of the enhanced risk. But as of now, they've maintained the enhanced risk, and this is really driven off a tornado risk. There's a 10% risk of a tornado in Houston. Points north, west, and northwest. Okay, it's kind of cut off to the northeast of the city. So that's good news, is the chance for the worst weather has really kind of shrunk, if you will. So smaller area. Around it you have in the brown, which is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Wind and hail threat only at a 5% risk, respectively, for, just it had the potential for just some wind damage with any storms and maybe a little bit of hail, but it really won't be that big of a deal as far as these two threats. But if you can have a tornado threat, you're certainly going to have the risk for a wind and hail threat. So we will watch out for that, but I don't expect these storms to, produce 70, 80 mile per hour winds today. I really don't. So talking about the chance for flash flooding, there is a slight risk, so at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met in this yellow area. This does include Houston to Lake Charles and almost, I would say it goes almost all the way up to Alexandria. Yeah, pretty much right up to Alexandria, all the way over to Lafayette, Louisiana. So we will watch for some poorly drained areas that could potentially flood in these regions, as multiple inches of rain is forecast to fall in this region. So we look at watches and warnings, advisories. The western U.S. is littered with a lot of winter weather alerts. You got winter storm watches in Idaho, a few counties in western Montana. You got winter storm warnings up for the pink in the Pacific Northwest along the Cascades. Winter storm watches up for the southern sections right here of almost called Oregon, Houston for whatever reason. But anyways, winter weather advisories up for this purple color right here. You got a couple winter storm warnings up for Nevada. Winter weather advisories up for other areas of other counties in the state of Nevada. And then we have an ongoing winter storm going on the higher elevations of New Mexico right now. But I want you to pay attention to this really quick. If you live in Iowa, and even watch out in areas surrounding these counties outside the winter weather advisories, because you guys could see a little winter weather too, and we'll talk about that in this video. But there is winter weather advisories there I go, almost said it, in Iowa. I got Houston on my mind just because I know we're about to talk about Houston a lot. But up here in Iowa, we do have winter weather advisories because on the northern section of all this moisture that will cause a severe weather threat down here for the south, you have enough cold air for a stripe of winter weather to warrant winter weather advisories in areas of Iowa. So we will discuss that for you folks who are tuning in. And we got numerous areas that have that have wind advisories for certain areas where gusty winds will be ongoing. So let's talk about the southeast first, and we will move throughout and eventually get to the severe weather threat here. If we start off this morning, the immediate southeast area are pretty quiet. There's not really any moisture in place right now. It's a cold morning again for a lot of areas of the southeast, but as you can tell, moisture will gradually move eastward, and as we are getting into about midday, early afternoon, we will talk more on this here in a second when we get to the south central frame, but moisture will begin to overspread Arkansas, Louisiana, and then as we get into later this evening, we will get some light rain, maybe moderate at times. It begins to enter the state of Mississippi even western areas of Tennessee later tonight. And then as we are getting deep into the night, to the wee hours of the morning, overnight into tomorrow morning, we will have ongoing thunderstorms for southern Louisiana. And then I really think that some folks in the wee hours of the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, can wake up to some loud thunder, flashes of lightning in the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area. It will be greeting you guys for your Friday morning for sure, as this low pressure ejects across the middle of the country. So we'll be waking up to maybe some light rain in the southern Alps tomorrow morning. Rain falling up here in Kentucky, some rain down here in Tennessee. So we will zoom into this region right here and just look at a closer look at the deep south here. Starting off this morning, there is some rain falling in Louisiana, and this will overspread, take over most of the state. You know, as we get into this evening, there it is. There's that rain affecting areas of Jackson, points north of the Mississippi Delta region. Heavy rain falling in Little Rock. Heavy areas of rain begins to move into the Memphis area overnight tonight. And then I do want to watch these storms down here in southern Louisiana. You have enough ingredients down here to pose a severe weather threat overnight. So definitely have a way to get alerts overnight. You could have a low risk of a tornado down here, even into the overnight hours down here in southern Louisiana, okay, which, you know, does include Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and we need to watch out in Gulfport too, and then eventually in Mobile as we're waking up for our Friday morning. So we'll watch this corridor of storms right into here for a risk of severe weather. Up here in the Northeast, it's a pretty quiet day compared to the beginning of this week where you had a lot of snow squall activity. So there ain't a whole lot to mention for this area. So as we move forward here, take it out throughout the morning hours, get into the early afternoon hours, and then we get into the evening hours. There's not a whole lot going on, but as you can tell, some moisture does begin to enter the picture over here to the west as rain begins to take over pretty much all of Indiana. Then it's beginning to take over most of Ohio. Southern Michigan began to see rain, and even central Michigan could see some wet snow from this. But most of the next 24 hours is quiet. A little bit of a warming trend today, and a little bit of snow melt is possible for sure. But today, pretty quiet for this region. So let's talk about the severe weather threat. There is an enhanced risk for Houston, okay? Right here in Houston, you know, you look over and it kind of goes down Interstate 10 to the west of Houston, and it goes almost up to College Station. Pretty much, you can pretty much, you know, say that this is covering College Station, Columbus, Sealy, Hempstead, Cypress region, which is in the outskirts of Houston, all the way up to about Huntsville, up Interstate 45 in Texas. You guys do have an enhanced risk of severe storms today. It's a level 3 out of 5. The tornado risk today, I didn't mean to go to day 2. I'm going to go to day 1. There's that 5% risk right here of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location, basically covering the enhanced risk. And then you have a 5% risk right into here in the brown. So kind of a broad look at what unfolds. You got the snow falling in New Mexico this morning. All right, there's the low right into here. Okay, and there's all the moisture surging into eastern and southeastern sections of Texas. We get into this afternoon. We need to watch all these storms right into here, west of Houston. Okay, and you know, you just got plain old rain. Not much of a severe weather threat yet developing in Louisiana. That happens later tonight, I think. But as we're getting throughout the afternoon hours, just good old rounds of just rain up here in northeast Texas. Mary, I think you'll be safe from the severe weather threat today. I think it'll just be rounds of heavy rain. But of course, you never know, so definitely keep your eye out on it. We're moving throughout the day, getting into later into the evening, and you got to watch this area right here. And we're going to zoom into this region, but just kind of showing you a broad look at what's going on. You got the low right here with a lot of heavy snow that's moving out of New Mexico. And listen, sometimes when you have these low pressures right here, sometimes when you got enough dynamic cooling on the cooler side wrapping behind this low, these systems can overperform snow-wise. So I would watch for a little bit of snow today in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Could get a burst of heavy snow. It's very possible. And I definitely think you'll get it later this evening into areas of Kansas, okay? And I think it could be a couple hours of some pretty heavy wet snow as we're getting into the overnight hours, and then I think confidence increases that that'll happen as we get into the state of Iowa. Let's take a closer look at the severe weather threat today in eastern Texas. Here it is. We're getting into, right now, this is around lunchtime today, just a lot of scattered and kind of congealed, kind of mashed together storm activity down here in eastern Texas, all right, and southeastern areas of Texas. So you would think, well, there's no discrete supercells. There's not really a whole lot to worry about. Well, that's why this isn't a bigger severe weather threat, and that's why ultimately this is kind of downtrended just a tad. It's because this is just a lot of congealed moisture. No storms can really get kind of discrete, get on their own to really take advantage of the ingredients that are there for severe weather. So there's no cap. Storms are just firing at will. You got a saturated column up into the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So therefore, you just got plenty of lift for a lot of thunderstorm development. So storms are just kind of choking each other out. It's a good and bad thing. It's bad because any tornadoes that can develop somehow in this just mushed up area convection around Houston, if they produce a tornado, it most likely will be rain wrapped. You're not going to be able to see it. The good news is the tornado threat is likely substantially lower than what it could be if you had better lapse rates, a little bit more dry, cooler air just above the surface. And that's just not the case in this case. So right here, you got a lot of storms kind of just riding up through Houston, points west, and you just got to watch out for all these storms throughout the afternoon. Getting into the evening, I mean, you got some nasty supercells just off the coastline into the Gulf of Mexico. If these storms were, pushed a little bit further north, I would worry a little bit more. There's that heavy burst of snow potential for the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. But, I mean, just if you're wondering about a time frame in the Houston area, okay, and pretty much an hour or two outside of Houston, it's pretty much here in the next few hours, all the way through about the early evening time frame, I would say. Okay, so let's talk about the potential for the spins, and there it is. You notice that the area that the ARRR model is saying with the updraft Felicity swath that has the best chance to rotate is really off the coastline. I mean, you got a little bit of a signal over eastern Texas, but I would say this has actually kind of dropped off in the video we did last night. Okay, so it really shows those excuse me, it really shows those supercells off the coastline, but it doesn't show much of a signal for tornadoes in southeast Texas today. But that does not mean that you couldn't get a quick spin up with this. So let's talk about rain really fast. But as far as rainfall here, 1 to 2 inches in the Texarkana region, a couple inches of rain is possible. Could be a chilly rain up here in Missouri, Illinois, but multiple inches of rain is possible down here in southeast Texas, basically Houston to Lake Charles to Alexandria. 2 to 3, maybe as much as 4 inches of rain could fall just between now and the next 24 hours. So this is definitely going to be a big rainmaker as we continue to put dents into this drought. Now, I mentioned the cold side that's kind of like the upper low right up here. This is certainly going to have an opportunity to drop an hour or two of very heavy snow. And, Dodge City, I would say later this evening, watch out, might catch you by surprise because you are under no kind of winter weather advisory. You could have a burst of heavy snow sometime this evening. It's very possible. And then this gets up to, could potentially definitely reach the Hays region, but it might just be, it could be just east of you guys in Hays. And, you're looking into the Great Bend region, potentially a burst of snow. Russell, you guys could get it. Could change to a burst of winter weather in the Salina region. Maybe a little winter weather into the extreme southeast section of Nebraska, northwest section of Missouri. But it won't be much, guys. It won't add up to a whole lot. The National Weather Service going for a little bit of a glaze of ice out there for freezing rain, maybe a little sleet, but only going for a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice. But they are saying that, a dusting of snow is possible from this. Maybe as much as a 1/2 inch of snow right here in the middle of Kansas. So we'll certainly watch for this. Not a big deal, but it could catch some people by surprise. Now, speaking of this heavy snow in New Mexico, it's already snowing right now. You guys are already seeing it, but this is how much more snow is expected between now. Some of this has already fell over the last 6 hours, but between now and the next 24 hours, this is how much snow could potentially fall in this region. So I do apologize, just kind of throwing this graphic up here and not being able to get specific on these regions, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew every single geographical region out west. You guys know that. But I like to show you guys graphics because you don't have access to all this stuff. I understand everywhere. But up here in the north central U.S., most of the morning hours is quiet. We get into the afternoon. That's when rain begins to overspread into St. Louis, begins to take over the central and southern sections of Illinois, and just starts to move into the Midwest just in general. Most of this is just rain. Okay, and then you start to get washout conditions into basically most of the state of Missouri. Same thing with Illinois. We're getting into tomorrow morning and a lot of heavy rain falling in areas of central and north central Illinois. Rain is overspread into Indiana, overspreading into Ohio, southern Michigan. And this is where you have that winter weather advisory for several counties in Iowa. Okay, right on the northern edge of this. It's cold enough for some winter weather. Okay, a little bit of freezing rain, some snow, maybe some sleet. And there it is, falling in these regions right into here. And you could get some like in the Rockford, Illinois area, maybe as far north as Janesville, Wisconsin, and then some heavy snow tomorrow morning as possible, some heavy wet snow kind of in central, south central areas of Michigan. We'll watch for that, see if they issue any kind of winter weather advisories for that. But there's the potential snowfall between now and Friday afternoon for this region. So, I'll try to mention a couple areas. If you live, I would say in Des Moines, you're probably not going to see anything from this. You might. Over to Iowa City, could get a dusting of snow. Davenport, you guys could see an inch or so. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Ottawa, Iowa, an inch or so of snow is possible in this region. We look at ice, and some areas could get 1/10 of an inch of ice, which is definitely enough for you to visibly see on tree branches and things like that. So be careful in this region for sure. But this is rainfall here in the Midwest between now and the next 24 hours. And we've kind of already talked about this region, but if we continue to go through the next 24 hours, which is basically between now and the next 48 hours, there's how much rain is expected in these regions if you're interested in knowing. So moving out west, we'll continue to chug westward as we struggle through this video together. There's all the moisture which is already entering the Pacific Northwest. Moisture will be on the increase throughout the morning and early afternoon hours. Heavy higher elevation snow will fall in the Cascades, Northern California, the Olympic Mountains. The temperatures will crash enough to where you guys switch to some heavy snow this afternoon. This snow will begin to overspread Washington, Oregon, the entire state. We'll start to get snow showers throughout central and northern Nevada, especially in the higher elevation. Snow begins to overspread into western areas of Idaho. You start to get some snow that develops in the higher elevations of Arizona. Even more snow continues to fall in northwest New Mexico. Snow showers in the Rockies of Colorado as we get into the overnight hours. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning to another vigorous storm system that's going to pump out even heavier precipitation into the Pacific Northwest. Snow falling across the Rockies as we're waking up tomorrow morning. This is how much precipitation can fall just in the next 24 hours in this region. How much of this is snow? Good bit in the higher elevations, okay? And this is just getting started. If I continue to move all the way through the weekend, pretty much all the way through Saturday afternoon, and you got 84 inches of snow showing up in this one area of the Cascades. So absolutely ridiculous amounts of snow expected for these areas. And we look at the Rockies, and not a whole lot of snow between now and the next 24 hours, but this will continue to add up in this region out here. So let's wrap this up by looking at the temperatures. Temperatures will rise all the way into the 50s into the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. Chillier as you get further north into the upper Midwest, 30s and 40s. Upper Great Lakes region, 30s and 40s. South, warming up, 60s. Some areas will stay into the 50s. Rain, cold air in Arkansas will keep you guys in the 50s. And below average temperatures out west as system after system continues to move in to keep temperatures pretty low. But Texas will be kind of wild today, where the heart of Texas in the 70s, but you get into the panhandle, moisture swings in. You guys could dip down to the 30s with maybe a burst of snow possible. All right, guys, thank you for having patience with me. If you're a first-time viewer, this is not how it always is. And I do apologize for a bad first impression. Just feeling kind of sick and just not 100% for sure. So thank y'all for the support regardless. Love and appreciate all y'all. And I definitely will have a video this evening. But I will be with you guys as we wake up tomorrow morning. Definitely watching next week for a storm system and what the models are showing for you folks in the Northeast. God bless all y'all and have a great Thursday.